So now for those of you who are not familiar, I'll just give a quick summary of an overview of what Leap is. So Leap is a digital point of sale application that helps contractors to digitize the entire home sales process, in-home sales process. So everything from generating estimates to displaying company stories, going through brochures electronically, generating proposals, contracts. It integrates your financing and secure payment capture. It's basically everything you do from the time that you pull up in the driveway to the time you leave that appointment. So just a quick touch base on that. So with that being said, I want to get right into what you all are here for today and introduce our speakers. So if you guys would like, we'll just do a quick round robin, and you guys can give a quick introductions to yourself. So I'll pass it over to Mark.
Well, thank you, Kelly. I appreciate that. Very happy to be here. Got a lot of good information that we're going to be sharing with the audience, so super exciting stuff. My name is Mark Levesque. I'm co-founder and managing director here at Webrunner Media. I've got a background in sales and marketing, probably been doing marketing for the past 15 years or so. And I'm in charge of partnerships, business development, and I oversee some of the client strategy here at the agency.
Perfect. And Daniel?
Hi, Daniel Young with Kingdom Roofing Systems. I'm the CEO and founder. I have one business partner. We're located here in Indiana. We specialize in residential and commercial roofing, siding, and gutters. We're founded in 2011. We have 2 locations, about 30 employees, and partner with some of the greatest in the business. So real proud to be here. Thank you guys for having us.
Fantastic. Thanks. Appreciate that. And last but not least, Fareed.
My name is Fareed Odar. I'm the head of sales here at Leap. I'm pretty excited about today's webinar. Just a little bit of my background. Some of you guys already know me from previous webinars or just doing demos. If you're already a customer, you're looking into partnering up with Leap. I have 8 years of sales experience in the in-home industry, in the home service industry, and 3 years now with Leap. So I'm very excited to hear what Dan has to say about the experience with us and how he has been able to transform his business by using us, and obviously also partnering up with Mark.
Fantastic. Thank you all for that. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass this over to Mark, who's going to dive into our content today. All right. And Mark, you should have it now.
Okay. That works. Perfect. Well,
Yep.
Thank you once again, Kelly. As I mentioned, my name is Mark Levesque. I'm one of the founders here at Webrunner, and just a little bit on our company here. So as you can see here, say goodbye to unreliable lead flow. Webrunner essentially helps home improvement contractors generate leads more predictably and profitably. We work with contractors across North America. In large part, the value that we bring to contractors is helping them run advertisements on some of the largest paid media platforms that you see below here: Google, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. And we aim to drive traffic through these platforms and turn much of that traffic into warm, qualified inbound leads that you can then in turn turn into sales. And something to note is that we play nice with a lot of the tools that most of you on this call are likely already using. And thank you to Leap for having us. They are a partner, phenomenal product. I urge you guys to check that out if you're not already using them. So today, I figured we would have a little bit of fun. Here in Montreal, where I'm located, we've got long, dreary winters. It gets cold, and so I figured, you know what? Today it's starting to get warm. It's nice out. It's 23 Celsius. For our US friends, it's what, 70, 75 Fahrenheit, somewhere around there. So it's looking nice outside, and I'm itching to play some golf. So I said, hey, let's kind of marry some marketing with some golf, and let's cover some marketing mistakes that we've seen happen over the years. And I think the core focus today here is we want to spend some time with Daniel Young and hear from his success stories. So I'm not going to spend too much time with these slides, but ultimately I'm just going to share some ideas here to get your sort of wheels spinning and sort of get some thoughts going on how you should look to approach marketing. And this is not just something that's timely. this, is something that's going to be valuable for you at absolutely any time. So here, what you see on your slide, owning versus renting. I think it goes without saying, if you want to play on tour, make it to the PGA, it's very difficult to see any level of success if you're at the mercy of whatever rented, bag of old dirty golf clubs you get. If, you hit up a course one day and, want to play around a golf, right? If you want to make it to the big leagues, what do? Well, you get yourself a nice set of clubs. You hire a coach and you play and you play and you play and you practice. And marketing is very, very, very similar. So the idea of having a little bit of control and ownership over what you're doing from a marketing perspective is very, very important. Difficult to do that with a rented bag of clubs. So just a little kind of analogy there for you. Number two, the idea of not being one-dimensional. And I don't know if any of you here are into golf. If so, maybe put a little comment in the chat box there. It'd be cool to see if there's any golfers on the call. This is a saying that you've likely heard thrown around the course a couple times before. So, you drive for show and you putt for dough, right? And the concept here is, driving is great, but if you can't putt, it's not going to do much for you, right? And so that is true to a certain degree, but I'm a firm believer that, look at anybody who's on tour, any of the pros, they excel at every aspect of the game. You may be a great putter, but guess what? If you can't drive that ball, if you can't approach the green, you're not going to get those pars, those birdies, and those eagles. And so how this relates to marketing, let's look at the buyer journey. And historically, the buyer journey, the one you see above here, awareness, consideration, decision, had relatively few touch points to it from a marketing perspective, right? Marketing would, help you get your brand in front of people. And then the sales function, the sales role would do a large part of that consideration and decision phase. Today, right, 2020, you've got a much larger window that you can leverage as an advertiser to get in front of people. And as you can all probably agree, homeowners, your consumers that are looking for your services, they probably come to you more educated than ever. And that's thanks to the advent of digital technology, mobile devices, that sort of thing. And so this actually creates an opportunity for us. Unfortunately, what a lot of you are doing is you are focusing on one thing, and naturally we all want to go after the low-hanging fruit. The problem is, by being a one-trick pony, you're leaving a lot of opportunity on the table. So looking at the buyer journey, kind of a different format here, we've got it in the form of a pyramid. A lot of you are really focusing on that 3%, and you're going after those homeowners or those consumers that are looking to buy now, and that's okay. But the message I'm trying to get across here is do not neglect that other 67%. There's 70% that are going to buy. The 30% at the end, well, hey, don't bother with them, but really focus on that 70%. Here's what the 3% looks like. So, companies are leveraging Google, which is great. Hats off to you. You get found for a generic search like this, roofing company or roofing company near me. You show an ad, they get to your beautiful landing page. Here's one of Dan's landing pages, who you'll hear from soon. And then you try and convert them. Well, newsflash, 90%, if not more, people who you send to pages like this will not convert. And so if your marketing play stops here, you're leaving a lot of money on the table, okay? Here's what the 67% looks like. So very similar, but we're kind of closing that loop. So generic Google search, you show an ad, they find you, fantastic. People are busy, life gets in the way, they've got kids, we've got COVID going on, things don't happen right away. So what happens is when people leave this page, if you don't succeed in capturing those 3% that are ready to buy, you've got to have in mind that other 6-7% is still out there, just haven't purchased yet. So people like Daniel Young invest time and effort into creating content and serving ads on platforms to keep the conversation going. And you've all been, I'm not going to say victims of this, but you've all been exposed to this type of marketing. If you've ever purchased something on Amazon, or you've shopped for something online, you notice that ads start to follow you. This is extremely, extremely effective. And this kind of marketing can be done through platforms like Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and LinkedIn. So what happens when you start leveraging this is that, that consideration window, where you start having a lot more conversations with your potential homeowner. and you're building rapport through this marketing, and you're potentially driving more branded searches for your company. So after a while, people start to take note of, hey, Kingdom Roofing Systems, I'm seeing this Dan Young guy everywhere, seems to know his stuff, and I like his style, I like his personality, and his customers seem to love what he's doing for them. Let me do a search for him, go book an appointment, and there you have it. So that is, what it looks like to not be one-dimensional. Moving on here, measure what matters. Right, so it's a lot of fun after your round of golf to sit with your buddies and talk about how you hit the 350-yard drive, right? But at the end of the day, the guy who pulls out the scorecard and says, yeah, but look at all the numbers I've circled here, birdie, birdie, par, eagle. That's what matters. And from a marketing perspective, unfortunately, far too often we get caught up with these 20, 30-page marketing reports that focus on the wrong KPIs, the wrong metrics. So to the left here, we've got what I call vanity metrics, and to the right, we've got what I call the take it to the bank metrics, right? You can't cache traffic or impressions or clicks or click-through rates. That's great for marketers who are trying to optimize campaigns. In the grand scheme of things, as business owners, you've got to be focusing on, okay, are we driving valid leads? Are they converting to appointments? What's our closing? What's the cost per lead? And more importantly, what do we need to invest to acquire a customer? These are the kind of things that are very, very important from a marketing perspective, and far too often we see those being neglected. Daniel, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but myself personally, I spend a lot of time on the beach in the bunkers, and getting out of here, unless you have the right tool. I see Farid laughing. Farid, you know what I'm talking about, right? So you need the right tools, and a sandwich is going to help you get out of the bunker a lot faster than a putter or a driver. So when it comes to marketing, there's a lot of tools that are available to us, and we have to leverage those. And so I've got a couple tools here plastered on the screen. One of the main tools that's part of our service offering is high converting landing pages. And just quickly, here's what some of those look like. Not only are they beautiful aesthetically, but they're geared to take a visitor and turn them into a lead. And so your message has to be relevant, the imagery, the people who are landing on these pages have to, this has to resonate with them, and they have to see themselves there. And so, right now with the whole COVID thing, your messaging, the fact that you've got, preparedness in place, you're putting the consumer first, the user experience on mobile, social proof, right? Your testimonials, your certifications, accreditations, that's all got to be there. And then you've got to do a good job of asking for people to connect with you, right? And you've got to make it easy for them to basically reach out. And that can be either a phone call, a form fill, live messaging, that sort of stuff. The benefit of using pages like this is that you can test them against each other. So you've probably heard the term A/B testing or split testing thrown around. We do a lot of split testing. So as you see here, we'll take a page like this, which we call version A. Might convert at 6.4%. So what that means is visitors who hit this page, if we send 100 visitors there, well, 6.4 of them are going to turn into a lead. Now let's put this into context. If we spend $8,000 to send traffic to this page, and in our market, the average click cost on Google happens to be $16, it means that $8,000 budget will net us 500 visitors, okay? At a conversion rate of 6.4%, we're looking at 32 leads. Not terrible, but by split testing and trying something completely different, potentially a short form page like you see here, we've got a before and after, a form, and this is for a paver restoration company. I know it's small, but so we've got above the fold, before and after, a form, and then a couple examples to give people an idea as to what to expect from a pricing standpoint. And here we ran this test, and on mobile specifically, version B got a conversion rate of 9.1%. To translate that into dollars, with the same budget of $8,000 and an average click of $16, with the same amount of visitors, you're now getting 45 leads. So what do those additional leads mean for you? Well, 13 additional leads. If you're closing at, I believe we had a 15 or 16% conversion rate in this calculation, it means you can go get another 2 sales. So if your average ticket is $15,000, this little split test can potentially go and get you another, $11,000 in gross profit. Multiply this by, month over month over month, potentially different services, higher media spends, lower click costs, and you can drastically improve your marketing. So that's super important. And guys, to finish off here, if you've ever, golfed before, or maybe you haven't golfed and you just, said, hey, let's take up a lesson here and learn how this stuff works. It's not easy. the first thing you're going to learn is that you've got to finish that swing. And this looks like a picture perfect swing. You finish with the club in the back. Well, it's the same thing with your marketing. So we talk about the customer, the buyer journey. Well, you've got to think of not only marketing to attract customers, and all this digital stuff is great, but marketing doesn't stop when you make a sale. Marketing has to continue. It's just a different style of marketing. Now you've got a customer. How do you leverage that customer to go out of their way to advocate for you and your brand and your business? And Daniel Young, who you'll hear from very soon, has mastered this quite well. And referrals and repeat business happens to be a huge driver of revenue for them. So those are the 5 points, guys. Kelly, I hope I'm okay on time. Maybe I ran a bit long. I apologize. But there you have it.
Doing great.
Good stuff. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Mark.
No problem.
All right, is it on me?
So you, Daniel, bring the heat.
All right. So again, Daniel Young, Kingdom Roofing Systems. We're here in Indiana. Just a little bit about us. So 2 locations. We average about 30 employees. We're OC Platinum, James Hardie Preferred, Duralast Master Contractors. We're very proud of these certifications, awards, and recommendations by the partners that we work with. So it means a lot to us. You know, we do residential, commercial, we do retail, insurance, and then we focus primarily on roofing and siding. We really cut our teeth in the insurance restoration world. So I did national storm chasing for years, met my business partner. We decided to land a brick and mortar. We kind of made a decision that we were kind of done living on the road, living in hotels, very hit or miss. It was not predictable, and we didn't feel it was scalable without us sacrificing personal lives, family lives. So in 2011, we came up with the concept with the vision of really just wanting to help people and giving employment to, you know, the local county, which, you know, one day maybe I can give you guys a little bit of history about. So, you know, this is our 9th season. And so when I really look back at the first 6 or 7 years in business, as you can see in the slide, like many people, I really felt like I was being crushed by the weight of being a slave to my business. The business really revolved around me making all the major decisions. You know, systems weren't in place. And it was a beast that I felt like if I didn't continue to feed daily, that we would go under. So I'm going to talk about some of those pain points that we had. I'm going to be pretty transparent. I think transparency is one of those things that for me is very important, because I believe that you all can relate to a lot of what we're going to talk about. So we started off like many companies. We purchased leads primarily right out the gate. We didn't have a brand. Nobody knew who we were. And so, you know, when you're cutting your teeth in the insurance restoration field, you're either door knocking, you're buying telemarketing leads, you're working with, you know, the lead generation companies that we all know. And there's a time and a place for that, right? Like we all have to start somewhere, and we have to do whatever we have to do to get out in front of people. The con to this model is that it's not organic. When it's not organic, that means that you do have to continue to put your credit card on the line every single day. And the benefit is you're getting that immediate gratification. Your needs are being met immediately. But it's not a seed in the ground that you're watering, nurturing. It's growing and can give you fruit, and it becomes scalable and consistent over time. These lead sources that we were working with also had a lower closing rate, a lower ROI, lower average job size, because we were paying for it. What we have found is if it's a branded inbound lead, our closing rate almost doubles. Our average job size is drastically increased, and our ROI is much greater because they know who to call, they know who they're looking for. So during this time, we're competing against everybody that doesn't know who to call. So these homeowners have no idea who to call, so they're searching roofer near me, and they could get 4 or 5 good people that we'd be competing against. Part of this also was I had to personally manage all these lead sources. So I was managing around 30 lead sources for the first 7 years of our business, which becomes almost unobtainable as an owner, an operator, somebody who's selling, dealing with finances. You know, from there, we were also going through this process about every 2 years where we're really trying to identify our brand, our services, who are we, what do we offer, what do we not offer. And through this time, we are finalizing our 4th round. I mean, and I almost feel stupid saying this, 4 rounds of total rebrands with names, websites, and logos completely redone. If nobody's been through a rebrand, I don't wish it on anybody, but over the last 8 years, 9 years, we've really dialed in who we are, what's our identity, what services do we want to offer. And so we began an 18-month journey about a year ago with Webrunner, and we plotted out. And the difference was it was the first time we laid out a game plan. During this time, we were using we used 2 different CRMs. We used them partially. We really used them just to host photos, our calendar, and our tasks, but we were not using them. We were not using it as a place to collect data, which I'm going to go into. So we didn't have a lot of the standard metrics like ROI, average job size, you know, net sale per lead issued. Most, in my experience, most CRMs, they're really not geared towards tracking sales metrics that are standard in our industry. And we didn't spend the majority of our energy on those metrics because we were constantly chasing our tail. We were constantly paying for leads, running leads that were not the highest quality. And so it was a drain and a suck on my time and our company's time. You know, during this period, I was really just losing my mind. And I was working 12 to 15-hour days, 6 and 7 days a week. I could not go away because I felt a fear of if I left, what will happen? You know, if I leave for a week or two, will the crap hit the fan and my team doesn't know how to respond because I'm micromanaging everything because I've not spent the time to train, develop, and employ the top rated people and put SOPs in place. Through this whole process, I became an insomniac. I would wake up at 2 and 3 a.m. and instantly begin having panic of all of the things that I knew that I was forgetting about, or this job that maybe is going sideways, or the leaks, or did it get dried in properly? And it got to the point where I was really just constantly upset because in the back of my mind, I expected people to have common sense, but I never trained them properly. I expected them to execute my vision, but I didn't lay it out clearly. I wanted them to act as if they were making the decision the way I would make it, but I never put an SOP in place to deploy what I wanted them to execute. So during this time, we were growing at a very rapid rate. You know, year over year, we were growing 100%. And so what I did was I gave away 1/3 of my business. So I had a partner, we were equal partners. We brought in a gentleman to operate as a CFO and CEO. A lot of it had to do with insecurity, and I didn't know what I didn't know. We were growing so quickly that I didn't know how to operate divisions of our business properly and really scale it. So when he came in, he did not carry our vision, which is a big part of what we feel like is our success. Is we have now begun to articulate properly our vision and only hire those that align with our vision. And if somebody doesn't remain inside of that vision, then we are firing quickly. His philosophy to profit was profit through savings. Our philosophy in the beginning was profit through investment. So we always felt that it was worth spending money on marketing, equipment, tools, and people for the future of the business, that we would forego profits today for the profits of tomorrow. And when he came in, the whole philosophy of how to run the business financially got adjusted to his philosophy. So it really restricted our growth. Like I had said, we had grown 100% year over year for 4 years, and then we became stagnant for the next 4 years as our partner restricted growth by not investing in our technology, our people, and our branding. You know, cash was always a nightmare. We were robbing Peter to pay Paul. We were constantly behind with our vendors. We were using lines of credit, and our vendor, oftentimes our material vendor became our bank. The financials were like rocket science to try to figure them out. The reports were super complicated. They were not simple. They were not easy to understand. There was a spreadsheet for a spreadsheet for a spreadsheet. And I would pull out my hair during these 8-hour meetings of nothingness. We felt like I would walk out feeling that nothing got accomplished, and we were completely demoralized. We were paying, an average $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 every single year in late fees and interest. We came to a point in our business where I approached both partners and I forced a buy sell and basically said, I will own my own business. Either that's going to be here, or you can buy me out and I'll own my own business somewhere else. But I got to the point that I was fed up being a slave to this thing, not having the data that we knew that we needed, not having the ability to make the decisions that we needed to make, and not having the information and the training that I personally needed to be a good leader, steward, and executive of our organization. So I made up my mind I was never going to go back to being a slave to my business, and I was going to build a sustainable business that I owned, but that did not own me. Through that process, a few things happened, and I'm going to go through, kind of my 5 main bullet points of where the transition began to happen and how we deployed the strategy to take us to where we are today, only 24 months later. So the first thing that I did was I made a resolve that I was going to identify every area in our business that we were weak, and I was personally weak. And I began to schedule time to work on my business. I had spent the last 7 years working constantly in my business, being a slave to it and it depending on me. This was very painful, and I had to become very disciplined and had to sacrifice. The very beginning is front-loaded of this transition, where you go from working in your business to on your business, because you're still working in your business as you're working on it, to transition to where other people are, your employees are actually managing divisions of the company. So one of the first thing I did was I began to call on coaches. I recruited a coach for every area of the business that was extremely important to me. And I became a sponge instantly. I started meeting with them, and I resolved to not deviate from the plan. That I knew I didn't know what I didn't know. And so I sought out industry leaders that could take us down a proven track record of success through their plans. So the first person I connected with was a great friend of mine. His name is Les O'Hara. And guys, I'm going to give you a lot of my silver bullets. I encourage you, pick up a pen, take some notes. I'm going to give you silver bullets. Many of these people I'm going to start name dropping. I have gone through 10, 15, 20 consultants to find the right consultant in every division of our business. Give me just a second to take a drink here. So one, I connected with Les O'Hara. His company is Build 12. He's out of Chicago, Chicago, Illinois. He took a roofing company that was a family company. He scaled it to $10 million, sold the business. Now he's a full-time consultant for them, and they've scaled to $40 million over the last few years. He has a proven track record. He is a general coach. He's a master of simple cash flow that anybody can understand in marketing. So I spent the first year and a half with him becoming very organized, writing out the customer journey, writing out mission and vision statement, and getting our team organized and coming up with strategy on how are we going to execute against the next few years. I began meeting with him twice a week. We have 2 one-hour sessions, 1 cash flow and 1 marketing, and I've done that consistently every single week for 2 years. This is where the teeter began to happen. I found somebody who was willing to dive into my life personally, spiritually, financially, and educate me and hold me accountable to these key metrics that we wanted to hit, where we could start to track them and measure success and failure. From there, I got connected with Mark Levesque, who's also on the call here at Webrunner. I would say in the last 10 years, I have worked with no less than 200 marketing agencies. If it has been tried, we've tried it. And what I found during the process is they always delivered on what they asked. What I asked them to deliver on, they over-delivered. It's the first relationship in marketing I've ever had where when I stroke the check at the end of the month to pay them their monthly fee, I feel like I'm not paying them enough. And historically, most vendors that I've worked with, I've wondered what they were doing and wondering if I was getting the value. And what we have found is that these guys are true experts in branding, marketing, in just overall digital, the digital space in general. So they warned me, Dan, this is gonna be very front loaded. And so in the very beginning of the process, we spent at times 3 and 4 hour sessions a couple times a week and started laying out the framework of the next 18 months. And the process was really a process of, Dan, just trust me. It's going to be painful. You're going to spend a lot of time on this. It's going to be front loaded. It will pay you back in dividends. And it reminds me a lot of if I had an apple in my hand, I've got 2 choices. I can eat the apple and consume my seed, or I can take the apple, I can cut it into pieces, I can remove the seeds, I can plant it, and I will eventually have an orchard that will feed me for a lifetime. And that's the process we've gone through of putting seeds in the ground, where we started diversifying our spend. We continued to pay some lead generators in the beginning, plus we started working on branding, which branding is the long play, right? And so we started laying out the strategy. How do we transition where we're not solely dependent on lead generation companies? Don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking lead generation companies. There's a time and a place, and they do provide value. It's, in my experience, I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket. I want to diversify. And so when things are hot or cold, we can pivot quickly. Next, as we began to scale, then our operations kind of started getting bananas. When you're growing 100% year over year, what's vital is that you begin laying out the operations of the company, working on SOPs, employment agreement, projections, and that's really what Breakthrough Academy brought to the table. Again, twice a month we meet for 2 hours. The amount of assets they gave me right out the gate was, it's paid us back in dividends. Again, so their history, just quick 10 seconds, the executive team there is really, their history was college pro painters, and they scaled to thousands of franchises, and they have a predictable model that works. So we began to deploy that through these, and today, still today, I meet with these 3 different coaches weekly, oftentimes multiple times a week. So I'm spending, I would say on average, 10 hours a week in coaching. And one of the things that I would challenge everybody on is, if you're going to run a business, you must invest in yourself. If you're not willing to invest in yourself, shut it down. If not, you will be a slave to this thing forever. And if you look at it and you ask what your end goal is, most people that I know, they want to make passive income, they want to make good money, and they want to have freedom. And most people have one or the other. They're either free and broke, or they have money and they're a slave. This is the only way to hit that transition where your money and your business works for you, it operates without you, it's scalable, predictable, trackable, and you're in it for the long play, not constantly feeding the beast. So second, we moved into a philosophy of people will be our assets. And that is directed at our employees. So most people we know, they hire experienced people, especially with storm chasers. You guys have all experienced the hotshot sales guy, a zero overhead, 50-50 commission. That's what I demand. That's my skill set. And these guys are here today and gone tomorrow, and they're constantly transitioning through because they've not been invested in by you personally. And so what we found was experienced people often didn't stay as long, and they were typically not brand loyal. Now, we have a couple of guys we've brought in with good experience. They fit the vision, the mission. They've worked out very well. But our success of reducing turnover is founded in hunting down people with high integrity. We're measuring and testing before they come on. Do they fit the vision, the mission? Do they fit the culture? When we make that our standard and not historical performance, then that's where we started to find success and retain our employees without having a bunch of turnover. Turnover became extremely expensive in the first years as we were branding and scaling and figuring this out. So we bring guys in, we train them from the ground up. Most of our employees, it's 6 months to 12 months before they're really profitable for us. But I don't know that I have anybody in our company that says that they've ever made more money somewhere else, and I don't have anybody that works for me that's not told me that they plan on retiring with us. So that's another thing that we look for, is somebody who is long-term minded, that we feel like we can invest in over 5, 10, 20 years, and their goal is to find a place to land and have a career. So with that, we felt that we needed to pay them better than our competitors. We want to attract the best people and keep them around. We only want rock stars. I have found that we operate much better. I would rather have one rock star than 2 mediocre people. I'd rather have a team of 15 people than a team of 30 people any day of the week. I would rather have the most elite people in the business, and you got to pay people properly to get that. So through this process, we began creating SOPs, organizing training. We're developing flow charts, organizational charts, and now we spend a lot of our energy on organizing the structure of the business, where we know if I have to say it more than once, the second time I need to record it. If it's a question that's consistent, we need to build a flow chart, an organizational chart. This takes time. It takes discipline, and it takes somebody who that's part of their employment agreement and their job description, but that's a game changer for you guys. Our goal is really to invest in people so much that they never wanted to leave, and pay those people by performance. So one of the things that we've done is we've looked at every individual position in the company and asked ourselves, how can we measure success, and how can we pay them for their performance, where they're treated like a partner? That's been a challenge with some positions, like administrative positions, but most positions we've begun to figure this out. Anything from guild quality surveys to the standard sales metrics. And one of the questions that I feel like rings true for us is the old saying, what happens if I train them and invest in them and they leave and become my competition, versus what happens if you don't invest in them and they stay? And that's been our greatest fear, is we have people here that cause more problems than they do solutions. So next, and I'm going to spend a good amount of time on this one, was technology was going to be the centrality, the backbone of our business. We found through this process that there was no one solution for our technology needs. We wanted to find one all-in-one solution that would manage everything, because that was easy, that was simple, that was ideal. But we have found that that's just not a reality. There is not a cure-all. There is not a software solution out there that met all of our needs. And to develop something that would be well over $1 million for what we've paired with our technology partners. We had to lean on these multiple solutions and that specialized and were the best in their own space. Through this process, we also learned that we needed to have somebody that their focus was on integrating and customizing software. So in the very beginning, I tried to do it in my downtime, which we never have, and I did it halfway. So 2 years ago, we brought in an IT. He does a little bit of everything in the software side. It's paid me back in dividends. And then on top of that, when we started pairing these integrations together through companies like Leap and Hover and Job Nimbus, we found that there was some gaps. And so we also found that through this, we had to develop some of our own solutions. So we began building out Google Sheets and dumping data into things like Zoho, which I'll get into a little bit later. But what we knew was this, again, this software investment was going to be very front loaded, but there was going to be a massive ROI on the back end. And we stayed committed to these software solutions, with Job Nimbus being our CRM. It became the hub, the centrality that everything else revolved around. One of the things that I found was really interesting when we were interviewing CRM companies was Job Nimbus. This is a silver bullet for you guys. Job Nimbus did a case study, and they found that companies that transition from a paper type business like many contractors are today and shifted to a digital company and became digital with Job Nimbus, their 40-hour employees on average saved 22 hours a week. And I found that to be incredible. And when I started doing the math, the investment of somebody like an IT to start building out automations, integrations, and start building bridges between other softwares like Leap and Hover, it paid me back in dividends. If I have 25 employees that are twice as productive because of these digital solutions, my staff in employment is 1/2. And so that was a great ROI in my mind, and I fully believe their case study is accurate. So this last year, one of the things that we did was I started going through our sales process, and I documented every different piece of software that we use from the time that we receive our lead to the time that we contract and invoice. And we found we used 12 pieces of technology for this entire customer journey. It was creating massive burden on my staff and on my roster. It became very complicated and complex. I could navigate it because I designed it, but it was not simple and easy to use. So we began interviewing these companies, and we had these 12 softwares that we were using written out with what we were using them for. And my goal in interviewing software companies was, how many of these software solutions can I remove with one sales software program? And as we wrote out these 12, we interviewed with Fareeth and his team. What we found was their software literally checked 12 out of 12 boxes, which was mind-blowing for me that a solution like that was out there, because we had to navigate back and forth with apps and double and quadruple data entry and things that weren't talking to each other. It was a real nightmare. So we came down this journey, and when we looked at it, we had some real goals in place, and we began to ask Leap, how far can we push your software? What is it capable of doing? We started asking some questions, and some of their responses was, we don't believe anybody's ever done that before, but we do believe the software can do it. And I'm going to give you guys an idea of what we've been able to create with Leap. And guys, if this was not a Leap webinar, I would say this exactly the same way. So I don't want you to think that I'm selling Leap because they're here. I'm selling Leap because they're my solution. And I've interviewed and tried so many different platforms, and this solved so many issues. So my first challenge that I wanted to overcome was when I bring the sales rep, and remember, I'm bringing in people that don't have industry experience, right? We're training from the ground up. So I'm bringing in somebody, I'm having to teach them about construction, all of the different trades in construction, residential, commercial. The way we sold was we built budgets. We would do material list, labor list, build a budget, put a margin on it, and then create our proposal. And through this, what we found was the amount of layers of everything these guys had to learn from the beginning to the end, from construction to doing takeoffs, to building budgets, to all the different software that they need to do. What we found is there's so many inaccuracies. One guy would estimate with this waste factor here, one guy would estimate with this margin over here. It was very inconsistent. I could send out 20 different reps, you'd get 20 different prices. They were close, but they were not the same. And we wanted to be simple and scalable. So what I know is most companies estimate in one of a few different ways. One was the way that we did, which I preferred because we felt like we could dial in our price to be as aggressive as possible and control our margin and it be predictable. So we would build the material estimate, the labor estimate, the budget, and then the margin. Very predictable if you're good at a takeoff, but how many people are truly good at doing takeoffs? The second side is many companies do these all-inclusive line items, remove and replace roof. It could be 15 or 20 different SKUs, 3 or 4 different labor line items with your subcontractor, and it's one line item. And that margin is probably 5 to 10% different, depending on complexity, waste factors, all these different things. So what I wanted to attempt to resolve is, can I, with the click of a button, take the data out of something like a hover measurement and get it to auto-populate my material, auto-populate my labor, create my cost, and automatically add a margin to it? So over the last 4 months, guys, what we've been able to create inside of Leap is we do a hover, it automatically imports into my Leap. When I get in there, I go to my customer, I hit download. The click of a button. We now have 5 roofing systems, good, better, best, plus 2 more variations. 5 different roofs, including my insurance estimate, my like, kind, and quality, my platinum roofing systems. All of them are based on cost, my cost to produce. I have a predictive margin built in, and now my sales rep who doesn't know how to do a takeoff has 5 different estimates to show their customer that are all truly dialed into 1 or 2% margin. It's extremely accurate. And we've done these case studies where the average estimate, building it based off of cost, is anywhere in the 30 to 45 minute range. So if somebody wants to do 5 variations, we all have that customer, right? They want 5 different ways, 3 different colors. They want to see it 100 different ways. I click a button, I've got 5 different variations. I know the margin, I know my cost to produce, I know my profit. And then if we want to add a discount, we can provide a discount. This has been a dream of mine for over 5 years. I've gone down this road with 3 different companies. 3 separate companies that I've worked with have not been able to pull it off. Leap was the first one that we've worked with that has been able to do this. Guys, this is a game changer. So if you do the math, if you have 10 reps that are doing 2 estimates a day, and we can save 2 hours per appointment with not building out all these different variations. They work 5 days a week, and let's say that they only work 45 weeks out of the year. With my roster of 10, I've saved 9,000 hours of estimating that we know the margin on. It's not a guess. And this was an absolute game changer. Now I need less reps to sell more than my competition. My guys can run more appointments and spend less time at every appointment. My training, my onboarding, everything that I need, my requirements when I go to recruit, they're not nearly as extensive because I don't have to have guys that can build budgets. What they need to do is they need to understand our product, understand the business, and can they use an iPad? We can teach them the rest as they go. Our training went from anywhere from 4, 6, 8 weeks before we could feel like they could go into the field. We've whittled it down to 1 to 2 weeks. Our guys can go in the field and they can operate on their own if they've been comprehensive through the training process. Our ROI has instantly been there. Now, we have pushed the limitations compared to many. Leap didn't have SOPs built out on how we did what we did, but they worked with us hand in hand, and they figured it out with us. Even though they hadn't gone down this road, they figured it out with us. They partnered with us, and we have a product now that I believe is unparalleled to our competition. It is absolutely a competitive edge on top of everything else that they solved without this neat download, good, better, best. They brought our financing, our credit cards, our e-checks, our invoicing, our digital signatures, our emailing of the invoice. And on top of that, I don't have to enter the data more than once. I enter it into our CRM. It pulls the data into Leap. Once we create our estimates, sign our contracts, we result it, it pushes that data back to Job Nimbus. This greatly reduces our mistakes, error, and I get much more production out of my team. And not only that, they're much happier, right? So I feel like our sales guy in every company, the salesman becomes a major component, the lifeblood of the business. The greatest complaint that I've heard is death by paperwork. Sales guys hate it, right? My goal is, how can I keep my sales guys in the field doing what drives the most revenue and not burdening them with things that they hate doing anyways? So this whole transition, it is an absolute investment. You have to be committed, and you need to have one person that will own the Leap platform and learning it and mastering it and deploying it to your team. But in a 3-month investment, which it was a few hours a week that we met with them, and then maybe 5 to 10 hours of our work throughout the week. We've now rolled it out. Our company's becoming very comfortable with it, and it's becoming the backbone of our entire sales process. At the end of the day, guys, we're all sales organizations, right? If we don't dial in this process, what are we leaving on the table? Where's the waste? Where we started, we wanted to make sure we were as efficient and accurate as possible. And this resolved so many layers of these challenges. And then a big part of our software partnership also is with Hover. We were one of the first people, I believe, in our area to begin using it. We love the 3D modeling and rendering. We love that it's got a full integration. It's one of our prerequisites when we're looking at vendor partners is, do they integrate? Do they play nice? Do they have open APIs with each other? And when I look at Job Nimbus, Leap, and Hover, they are all committed to talking to each other and development, and they're getting the feedback from their customers and investing in their software, so their platform resolves the pain points that we hear. These guys will pick up my phone call, hear our feedback. We've had discussions where things weren't what we expected, and boom, they're on it. They're going after it. They're resolving it. They've taken it all the way to the executive level, and they have came back with real solutions during this transition. It is, your business is an extension of your software partners. And so when you have access to people that are invested in your company and partner with you, it makes all the difference in the world. I don't sit on a waiting line and wait for somebody who may or may not know what they're talking about to pick up. So it's been a real blessing. Number 4, another decision that we made was we were going to manage our company by numbers, not by emotion. And we found that technology and the numbers were accurate. They didn't lie. They were not an emotional being. They didn't have good days and bad days. They could do the work of 10 people if set up properly. They lowered our overhead cost. They increased our accuracy. They decreased redundancy, double data entry. And in the last 2 years, working with people like Leap and Job Nimbus and Webrunner and Breakthrough Academy, we have built the most ridiculous, robust reporting where I've got more data than I could ever think about using. But at any given time, somebody could ask me a question and I have the solution for them. And I know for any of you that are interested in selling your business, when you want to talk about the value of your company, it's in your data. Your data is your value. And without data, nobody's going to be interested. So during that time, we brought on our IT, and then we started pushing the limits of how much can I integrate and automate with data. I don't want to enter it here and enter it in a different platform. I want everything speaking to each other. So my IT, Webrunner, Mark's partner, Kevin, they spearhead and meet weekly on how much can we push and pull one to another. Makes everything very accurate. one of the things that we say here is those with the most data win. And if you guys are looking at kind of standards in business today, most companies are becoming data companies. Google's a data company, Yahoo's a data company, YouTube is a data company, Facebook is a data company. The data, the analytics is where everybody wins, loses, goes bankrupt, or gets a bankroll. And we decided that we wanted the data that the big boys had, that Google had. And so we have constantly pushed the limits on how much data can we extract, leverage, and use to adjust. Things like taking a pay-per-click campaign like what Mark talked about and beginning to track campaign against campaign. Now I'm spending less with a higher closing ratio, higher average job size, because we can go all the way back to tracking gross profit to a lead source. During this time, we started tracking our marketing expense. We have shoved down our marketing expense to a 5% spend of revenue. And just so you guys know, we typically are running about 60% retail. And we have, we do a lot of marketing, but it's extremely efficient. If you talk to business owners that run retail construction companies, most of them are spending upwards of 20 and 25% when they're doing radio, TV, magazines. If you want to be seen everywhere, that's where most people's marketing spend. Working with Webrunner, running the data and the analytics and polishing, we've shoved that number down to 5%. Storm chasers, if you strictly do storm chasing and you're not a marketing machine, maybe 5% is in line with your telemarketing and things like that. But running a retail organization, it's an amazing number. So during this time, another tool that we used was Zoho. Zoho is an analytics company. They display our measuring tools. So what we literally have is Leap pushing data to Job Nimbus shoving data to a Google report, Google shoving it into Zoho, and every morning I wake up to a fresh board of all of the reports that I want to see as an owner, the things that are important to me. And we have learned to begin to measure our success in ways that most people don't, because I think, one, they haven't thought of it, and two, they can't. So I know a lot of organizations that are trained and polished sales organizations. Anybody ever heard of NSLI, net sale per lead issued? A lot of companies are measuring their success by how much revenue do we bring in for every lead that we hand out to our sales reps. One of the things that we found is, I don't care about revenue. What does revenue matter if we don't make a profit, right? So instead of measuring revenue at the end of the day, what is success? Well, it's profit. So now we run reports on gross profit per lead issued. So I can have a sales rep that sells $4,000 per lead issued, and another sales rep that sells $3,000 per lead issued. But rep one maybe brings me $1,000 in profit. Rep two brings me $1,500. Rep two does less in revenue, more profit. I don't know about you guys. I would much rather do less work and make more money. And so these software solutions pushing to our Zoho analytics is giving me the data by lead source, by sales rep. Where do I need to cut off, fire, hire, recruit, shift money? And it allows us to be extremely efficient. Another thing that we did is we partnered with Build 12, and we came up with a simple cash flow. I know that in this industry, cash flow can be all over the place based off of the season. Big vendor bills at the end of the month from a supplier, and people get to Thursday and wonder, am I going to be able to pay my employees tomorrow? It's a terrible place to be. And what we found was, with a polished cash flow that was simple and easy to use and easy to read, we can begin to predict trends and see and forecast 4 and 6 weeks out. Hey, we could be in a cash crisis. We need to lower spending, increase sales, run a special, send out a promotion, go on an AR hunt, start going after accounts receivable. it drove our actions when we had that data from our simple cash flow. So last point that I really want to hammer on is that we decided that branding was going to be a top priority for us. When we started getting the data, now that we've set up all the recent reports, what we found was our three top lead sources in revenue, ROI, and gross profit was yard signs, truck wraps, and referrals. And there's a common denominator between the three of these. If you're doing it right, most of you guys probably have the same experience, but they're all branded. These are three lead sources. They knew who to call. They weren't searching who to call. They weren't looking for a roofer. They were looking for Kingdom. So we decided we are going to double down. Our closing rate was much higher. We oftentimes didn't even have competition. They didn't get a second quote. Why? Somebody else sold us already before we showed up. We didn't have to discount jobs. And the way we look at it, guys, is most companies that are healthy are making 5 to 10% net profit at the end of the year. Every point that we give away in discount to win the job because somebody didn't know who we were is 100% profit. So what we found is if I didn't have to give that 5% discount, say I make 5% net profit. If I don't give away a 5% discount and I'm now at 10%, I've increased my profit at the end of the year by 100%. So what we found was if we invested on the front side where consumers knew who we were, most of the challenges that sales reps and companies have begin to go away. So through this process, we decided, we want to be that local brand and not solely be dependent on lead generators. We wanted to do both. We wanted to really control our destiny. And we had to make this hard transition from primarily only buying leads and immediately meeting that need to putting seeds in the ground and understanding that this is the long play, but it's what will continue to pay us back in dividends over time. So we decided we needed to really begin to push out our logo and depend on the strength of our logo, our name, and our brand, and not just push out manufacturing partners like, we'll say Owens Corning or James Hardie. In the very beginning, many companies, they ride out on the coattail of manufacturing partners. Listen, I'm OC Platinum. It's plastered on all of our stuff, but you have to build your own identity, not just the identity of your partners. A partnership is about a partnership, not about hiding behind the strength of the Pink Panther. The Pink Panther validates our brand because Owens Corning has come to the table and said, these guys are the 1%, but I want them to know the lion, not only the panther. So after 2 years, the momentum has become exponential. To give you guys an idea, during COVID, so during the month of April, which was, in our experience, the oddest, strangest time in the economy I've ever seen, we generated 530 leads in 30 days. Those are set appointments that want an estimate from us. Last year, we generated about 2,000 leads total. So during the middle of COVID, the greatest economic downturn that most of us have ever seen, we generated about 35% of our leads that we did all year last year. We are now at the point where we're restricting lead flow. I'm literally calling Mark saying, Mark, you got to shut it down. Like, reduce our budget, reduce our marketing spend, shut off our campaigns. We've got to restrict lead flow. I've got sales reps that have ran 3 to 5 appointments 6 days a week for 90 days in a row. These guys have no downtime. We can't scale fast enough. When you look at it and you say, what impacted that? What's caused that? How have you generated so many leads that you're begging for somebody to take them off your hands? So I'm going to get into that. I want to give you guys kind of a history revenue-wise so you can see the parallel between purchasing leads only versus purchasing some leads, but also building a brand. So, year 1, 2012, we started off at $500,000 in sales. Year 2, $1 million. Year 3, $2 million. And then year 4, we went up to 3. So we grew year over year, 3 years in a row, 100%, and then 50%. And then at that point, we brought in a partner. We were growing so rapidly, we didn't know what to do. When we brought in our partner, he reduced the marketing spend. His philosophy was profit through savings, not profit through investment. So we spent the next 4 seasons hovering at $3 million. We brought on an executive, gave away 1/3 of our inheritance, and we stayed stagnant. We made less money in profit because we had more overhead. So we came to crossroads is the best way to say it. And in 2018, almost exactly 24 months ago, when I did the forced buy sell, the previous year we did $3 million. The middle of that summer, we bought them out. We began to instantly make changes. We grew 35%. We added an additional $1 million in the back half of that season. We did $4 million in 2018. We grew 33% simply by, as soon as he was bought out, I went out and bought 2 computer screens instead of 1. I bought Bluetooth keyboards instead of having to use keyboards on laptops. We did simple things, guys. We started turning the marketing back on. I started seeking out coaches and consultants. I started seeking out software solutions. We started investing in our business and not just trying to save money. So the next season, which was our first season, 2019, was our first season without our 3rd business partner. That's when I got with Breakthrough Academy. I got with Leap. I got with Webrunner and Build 12, Les O'Hara. We went from 4 million in sales, was actually 3.8, to $7 million in sales. We did almost 100% growth in 1 year as we laid out these strategies that I've talked about over the last half hour of technology, marketing, leveraging software, investing in IT, building a brand. And in 2020 now, we are pacing to go from 7 million to landing at about $12.5 million during the greatest economic downturn we've seen in years. Other competitors are shutting their doors, and we're expanding, recruiting, and trying to scale as fast as possible because we have more opportunity than what we could imagine handling. Right now, today, I looked at our sales board before I got on. We have 787 customers in our sales pipeline. The beauty is I can go into Leap and hit send on our proposal. We have the digital tools and assets to rehash and pull that data and go after the low-hanging fruit. I want to dive in a little bit of what were some of the areas that really pushed the needle on the marketing side that generated so many opportunities. So meeting with Webrunner, one of the things that they first laid out is, Dan, you've got to begin to go after video content. You've got to create and lay out content for your customers to consume. And so we hired an in-house brand ambassador. He's straight out of college. He's good with technology. And now I'm paying Webrunner to coach and consult him to deploy the strategy, that 18-month roadmap. We laid it out, and now he's an integral piece to that. So he is now going in the field, getting video testimonials, and we're repurposing this content, using it on Facebook, on YouTube, on our website, on social media platforms. We can actually add HTML codes to automatic emails that go out. We can embed it into our marketing, our digital marketing. This opened so many doors. All of a sudden, we're getting recognition from vendors, suppliers, TV channels. We're being given awards where we weren't on the map before, magazines and radios. Now we're negotiating with vendors, and because of our brand position, we're actually negotiating straight pay-for-performance marketing campaigns where we have no risk. We only pay these partners if we sell a job, which in my opinion is another piece of the pie where if you guys negotiate, begin bringing that up to your vendors. Will you work with me on a pay-for-performance model? Not everybody will. But if you're talking to 5 radio stations and 1 will and 4 won't, guys, it's free marketing. Right now, I'm on a radio station with the greatest personality in the Midwest. If I said his name, everybody here knows him. I have no monthly bill. We track the sales. We have the data. They're so confident in our data, our tools, our software solutions that we track so well that they're not concerned about losing their pay for performance dividends. So that became a huge part of it. That in-house brand ambassador that really moved the needle. We just brought them on 3 months ago, and instantly we're watching the skyrocket of inbound leads, and most of them are around these digital the digital solutions that we're deploying. To give you guys an idea, we started doing video on Facebook and running ads. Mark, we are running $30 to $35 appointments, I believe, on average right now. Is that correct? So most of our data historically, we budgeted $300 per appointment historically. And we have drove that down 90% on platforms like Facebook. And so when somebody looks at it, and I know what everybody's thinking, I can't add another person to my overhead. The way we looked at it is, I'm either going to hire a company to do marketing for me, and my marketing spend is going to go there, or I can bring it in-house and get 5 times the value while this person is constantly at my disposal. The amount of money that we pay him, which is good, we would get about 1/4 of that if we were paying a third-party vendor. He instantly pushed the needle. And what happens is you have Mark at Webrunner with the vision and the bird's eye view deploying all of these different strategies. And then I have a brand ambassador in-house that becomes the boots on the ground. So a hailstorm can hit. Mark can say, go to this neighborhood, stand at this entrance, create this video with that sign in the background where everybody who lives in that neighborhood knows that sign, and boom, we'll do geofencing, we'll run Facebook ads in just that neighborhood, and instantly we begin to own neighborhoods. So you cannot do that scheduling a media company to come out once a month. It's impossible. You will wait. And speed to lead is so pertinent to closing ratio and average job size. So through this process, we really just began to get better deals and found favor with our marketing agencies that we work with. And I look back, and honestly, that's one of the biggest mistakes that we made historically, was not bringing this position on fast enough. If I could go back, I would have brought on an IT and a brand ambassador as soon as possible. And those are the 2 departments in our company that, as we continue to scale, those are the departments that have a main focus from me, because I know that their solutions on the marketing side, they're generating the leads that we need, which is the lifeblood of the company. And then you have IT that can facilitate, manage, automate, and integrate all of this different chaos that happens through the entire customer journey. So that's really my bullet points, guys. I can kick it back here to Leap. Quickly, if you guys want to jot this down, feel free to reach out to me through my email, daniel@kingdomquality.com. That's Daniel@kingdomquality. Happy to help you guys however I can. Again, I've given you my vendor partners' names and their information. If you need direct contacts, feel free to email me and I can get you connected with whoever. Really appreciate it, guys.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Daniel. That's wonderful information. Got lots of great feedback coming in from the audience on that one. We're running a little bit over time, so appreciate everyone hanging in there with us. One question I did want to address quickly before we get into some final comments here. Daniel, the name of the coaching company that you had mentioned with Les O'Hara in Chicago, could you repeat that for the audience today?
Yes, that's Build 12. His name is Les O'Hara. So he has been in the construction industry for about 30 years. He is a full-time coach. That is his main job. So I can give you his email here if anybody's looking for that. Give me just 1 second. It is Les, L-E-S, at build, B-U-I-L-D 12.com. Les at build12.com.
Fantastic. All right. And I do realize that we're running a little bit over time. So if anyone has any additional questions or things like that that they'd like to send in that they didn't get to address, We'll follow up with those couple of other questions that came in directly, but if you think of anything after the call today, feel free and submit that into marketing@leaptodigital.com, whether it's for, and you can obviously reach out to Daniel. He was gracious enough to provide his personal email address, which is wonderful. But if you do think of anything in the meantime, feel free to go ahead and submit your questions to that address there. So I just wanted to say a big thank you to Mark and Daniel and Fareed for joining us today. I just wanted to give you guys the opportunity for any closing remarks or anything like that that you might have.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask one quick question. I know we're about 20 minutes past the ending time, but there's two things that Daniel you brought up that were pretty interesting. That when you were making the changes and when you really start seeing the difference, you implemented the technology and you decided to invest in people, right? The first question, as far as the technology aspect of it, I think there's so much out there. There's a lot of white noise with tech, and I mean, every single person on this webinar probably gets a ton of emails with marketing emails and things like that. How did you go about finding the right tools for your business? What is your strategy there? How do you look for those?
Yeah, great question. So honestly, I failed, right? So I listened to the white noise in the very beginning, and I constantly was chasing the next best thing. And what I had a history in doing was going down these massive rabbit trails that cost me drastically. And so through this experience of failure, what we found was we needed to take a very systematic approach of documenting out what solutions are we attempting to resolve, and then holding a standard of interviewing these platforms and going through demonstrations of show me what it does from beginning to end. And then we looked at how many solutions does it resolve for us. So that was a big part of it. From there, I'm constantly looking for recommendations from people that I trust. And so the partners, people like Tom Bosch, who came from Hover, and we built a relationship with him. We trusted him. And I knew that the only way he would come to a company like Leap was it was an outstanding company. And so I'm reaching out to the industry professionals that I know, the relationships that we've built over time, and I'm pulling on my coaches, I'm pulling on my consultants and saying, this is what we need to resolve. Who do we need to consider? So with, we'll say the Leap platform, we boiled it down to 3 main competitors that I believe are doing it well, right? There's different people that do things very well. Leap was, for me, the most all-inclusive platform that was going to resolve the most amount of our challenges. And then second, we knew that when we would call and communicate, that Leap was very responsive with us. And that becomes huge because it's very common that, we have a challenge, we need a resolution now, right? And if you don't have somebody who's really looking at you as a partner and willing to invest, pick up on a Sunday morning, do whatever it takes, it'll leave your company dead in the water. And the pro and the con of software is you begin to depend on it, right? So it resolves all these problems, but you depend on it. And if there's a failure there, you've got to have a resolution very quickly. So the customer support for us was massive, knowing that we had somebody really holding our hand through the process.
That's awesome. Thanks for that. And just one last one here, because the other aspect of the success that you've mentioned was people, investing in people, right? Building your team, your culture, and all that. How have implementing all these systems impacted your recruiting strategy and your retention?
Yeah, absolutely. So one, on the recruiting side, I think when you have systems, processes, and digital solutions in place, people take you serious. Where when people come in, when you hire real quick and there's not a real training and onboarding process and everything's done on paper and you kind of do it this way and you kind of do it a different way, people become, they lose respect and honor for the overall program. And so these most of the people we work with, oftentimes they really like technology. They're into it. We've become a pretty techie company really for a contractor. And so a lot of it is, I believe it's attractive to our ideal employee. The front side of deploying changes, it can always be a little bit painful. But what I've consistently heard is in the beginning, people don't always like change, right? Like sometimes it's just tough. Change is change. But what I consistently hear about the partners that we work with is there was an investment on the front side. It took me a little bit of time to learn it, but it was worth it, right? And we've decided to run a business that we understand that we'll sacrifice today for the long-term investment, and we're not looking for an immediate gratification. I want something that's sustainable, predictable, and I'm able to scale it. And I've got the systems in place that can support our scaling. And the solutions that we've come up with and the way we've built it out, we feel very, very confident that we can tweak it, but this isn't a 2-month, a 6-month, a 12-month solution. I could run 100 reps on this platform.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. Back to you, Kelly.
Okay, great. I think we're at 3:25. Okay, so I know we're running real tight on time here, guys. So we'll go ahead and wrap that up for today. I know there are a few questions in chat right now that we didn't have time to get to. We'll address those with you guys offline, if that's okay. So I did want to just reiterate a big thank you to Mark and Daniel and Fareed for joining us today. Again, if you have any additional questions or things that you think of after we close out here today, feel free to submit those to that marketing@leaptodigital.com, and we'll get back to you and follow up with you directly there. So thank you everyone for your time today and for joining us on our webinar. Very informative. I know we said it was like the 5 biggest sales and marketing mistakes, but I think Mark and Daniel gave us way more information than that, which is fantastic, and we're so happy to have you guys. So with that, thank you very much and enjoy your afternoon.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.